Hello, useful content creators. Today we have a bit of a different episode. I talk with Reid of Reid Designs and we discuss how he has been using AI generated images in his design work. We talk about his AI tools of choice. We touch on how he deals with his commercial clients when it comes to AI generated images, whether or not graphic designers should charge the same as photographers for AI generated subjects, and the big mistakes ad agencies make when they are trying to use AI-generated images in their client work. So fair warning, this is a conversation between two Trinis, so it gets really local, both in speech and examples. And we mention a location in Trinidad and Tobago called the Bamboo Cathedral a whole lot, which I eventually describe badly in the podcast. So for my international listeners, you might want to look that up as well. All in all, it's a great discussion, and if you listen carefully, you'll get some great insight into how graphic designers are using AI-generated images and how you can use them too. Let's make useful content. Teaching you to make useful content so that you can build long-term relationships with the people that matter to your business. Hello and welcome to Useful Content, and today we have a brand new teacher in our Useful Content classroom, Reid. Hi, Ian.
Hey, Joe, how is it going?
It's going well, man. It's going well. It's good to have you on. You were one of the harder Pokemon to catch because I've been inviting you on for a little while, but it's good to have you on now. And, it just so happens that today is a holiday, so that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah,
Even though
easier.
When you have your own business, you'd already get a chance to go on holiday.
Yeah, it's true. No holidays for us. That's how it is.
Very much so. Very much so. Okay, great. So people may not know who you are. So could you tell the people what you do and how you help your clients make useful content?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. What do I do? When you ask me a bio, I started writing my bio as failed marketer, failed graphic designer, failed art director, failed advertising. Pretty much everything that I've done so far has a level of failure when I look back at it. I started on my career as a graphic artist. So at the core, that's what I do. That's who I am. I can't seem to eject that from my being. I've been in the business for so long. It's been almost 30 years since I've been doing graphic design, since the beginning. I am an advertising marketing person, but that's because I worked with one of the largest ad agencies in the Caribbean. I was at McCann for almost 20 years. My work has always been specifically, clients come to me and they say, Ian, we need a press ad. Ian, we need social media posts. Ian, we need, I need a book design, or I need an annual report. And that's my core business. But within that, there is a growing change. There is no longer am I bound to having to sit down and stare at a blank screen and try to figure out I can't think of what to do. What do I do? I'm reading this brief and it doesn't make heads or tails of it. I can't, I put it into ChatGPT now. I say, here's the brief, tell me what to do.
Right. So things have changed.
That's the level that we're reaching,
That's the level that we're reaching. So I kind of see you as, I refer to myself as this a lot too. I kind of see you as like the middle child of the internet, where you're old enough to have done these things physically, but you're also old enough to have experienced this, AI, which is over the last few years has become the it thing, right? And I know that you've been using that extensively. So you say most of your work is based around actual design, like visuals for people. So it's not really, have you done a lot of brand identity stuff, or it's just mainly graphic design?
Well, I consider everything related to visuals. Brand identity is part of it. It's all, if we go back to the lovely Venn diagram idea, it's all in a circle. Once it's a visual representation of your brand, that's what I do. So recently, just to give you an idea, recently I have made a conscious effort not to do logos. Let's talk about that a little bit as it relates to AI. About 4 or 5 years ago, I started seeing websites where you could basically design a logo from answering a few questions. So you do step by step, and you do a wizard, and it gives you like 25 options of a logo. I mean, all look like crap. But then I began to realize I don't need to sit down and draw 50 logos and then try to come up with 5 different options to the client, which is what they were paying me for. So usually you charge $5,000-$6,000 to do a logo. You see, this is way back in 2015, $4,000. You can give me a logo and I pay you for that because that is time to come up with that. And then I started seeing the ability to do this without having to go through all of this work. And then I realized clients are not going to pay me $5,000 when they could just go onto this website and do it themselves.
Do you think the age of the iconic logo is over?
Yes, I do. There was a trend the other day where all these fashion brands are now, black and white text that just says Gucci in Myriad Pro, and everybody's hailing it as the next greatest thing. But I mean that's the evolution. That's where we've headed. And then we had Canva, and everybody was like, "Yeah, Canva. Nobody want to take on Canva. Everybody's using Canva now, and Canva now has AI in it. So game over. If I want a quote from Aliens, game over, man. Game over. What the hell are you supposed to do now? What am I as a graphic artist supposed to do now if the client is coming back to me with a layout entirely in Canva and asking me if this is okay? I'm like, can I charge you $3,500 for me to tell you if your layout is okay? No, that's not how it's gonna work, But
Right.
that's how we lead into AI, because it's a slow progression over time of people saying, I don't need the middleman anymore. That's a good thing, and it's also a bad thing.
Right. So let's talk about how you have been, let's say, becoming the person who replaces the middleman by positioning yourself and educating yourself and upskilling with AI over the past few years. Because I saw that you were tinkering with it when it first came out, and of course you were doing the mid-journey thing. Everybody did one or two of those, and now you are really into, I believe, a stable diffusion and getting all that correct and right, because we want to dive into how AI is affecting and impacting the business of graphic design. So tell me, how have you been using AI for your business now? What's the function of it, and specifically in terms of image generation? And then you'll just kind of tell me what difference has that made in your business to this point.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me preface it before. So Midjourney comes on the scene. Well, first DALI comes on the scene. So DALI and ChatGPT and all these what they call large language models and image generators appeared on the scene like a thief in the night. And there were a couple of commentators who said no one expected this. Like no one expected the Spanish Inquisition Monty Python. No one expected the AI thing to just arrive. People normally what happens is it has to gain traction. So to give you an example, Facebook didn't happen overnight, in the sense that it took a long time for Facebook to achieve the billion and something amount of people that are on it. AI just dropped and it got 1 billion people using it from the get-go. So no one expected this thing to reach critical mass like it did. So yeah, I started tinkering with this thing, and it immediately hit me because I'd already, as I had stated before, I already knew what was happening with Canva. I really knew what the business plan was, what the long-term goals for Canva was. And I saw AI coming in, and I said, okay, you can't miss this boat. It's like playing with fire now. We have to take this and learn how to harness it. And as I explained to one of my friends in the AI space, I said, Shuin, we need to we need to figure out how this becomes part of the workflow. What people were trying to do in the earlies was they were trying to replace the workflow with this. We haven't reached there yet. It will come, but we haven't reached there yet. So I said, okay, I need to learn as much as I can without learning the programming language behind it. First of all, what are the drawbacks? What can't I do with this thing? And the first thing that hit me was you cannot use this for production level stuff because the hands are all screwed up. Mid-JD can't do hands. And that was a big thing. All the AI detractors were, I can't do hands, can't do hands. 6 months later, 9 months later, it's doing hands. And then we got video. So I'm like, all right, this is the growth exponential is now 9, 6, 3. Every month is a new model that's coming out. So Mid-Journey, not paying for it. I'm not going to be able to make back on my investment. I'm not going to go and generate all sort of Mid-Journey images and sell them on the internet. It's not going to work. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do Mid-Journey. And then we heard about Stable Diffusion, which dropped just around the same time. Eventually, I got onto what was called Invoke. Now, Invoke is also an open source with a paid component where you can use the open source. But what Invoke is it allows you to generate your own images locally on your own machine. You don't have to use a Google server. You don't have to use a Midjourney server. You don't have to use anything. You don't have to use a Discord account. Nothing like that. What you do is you set up the system on your machine. You have your processor and your video card do the processing for you. That's great if your video card is a RTX and a huge beast of a machine. I don't have that. So I spent a lot of time staring at the screen, watching this thing generate and not getting the results. And thinking to myself, well, maybe this is not the right thing for me. This is not where we need to go, whatever. Mm-hmm. But eventually I just kept at it. I kept doing it. I kept, trying it out, leaving it, let it process, come back, doing those kind of things. And eventually learning that if I do the right kind of processes, the right kind of prompting, I will get the results that I'm looking for. And sometimes it surprises me. I didn't think that it was going to do this. So somewhere in 2023, I think it was about September, what happened was last year in the middle of everything, I had open heart surgery and I had to stop everything. So my gap in AI generation lasted about 6 months because I had to recuperate. But in September of 2023, I was getting back into it and doing stuff and finding out the advances that had been done since I wasn't involved with it. Our client came to me and she said, yeah, no, we did a photo shoot and we hate it. And I said, okay, well, you need to show me what you're talking about. And she sent me this. And I love my client. But again, it's obvious they tried to do it on I wouldn't use the word cheap. They tried to do it on the cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, she was right. It's not what you would use for a big brand as their own, because they are part of a big brand. And I said, all right, what do you want? And she said, well, we need to take this person who's sitting down here and we need to put them in a store. But it can't be any store. It has to be a local Trinidad-looking store. So there are 3 things in that brief that are immediately the challenge. 1, I have to take the person out of the original scene and put them into a new scene. Okay, Photoshop, no problem. Could do that. Been doing that for thousands of years. We can do that. Put you in a store. Well, a store, quote unquote. If I put store into the AI and say, give me a store, it would give me something it interprets as a store based on what the model has been trained to know what a store is. So the store could be something, and usually it's something in Japan because the Japanese are the ones that are doing a lot more modeling in Stable Diffusion. So a store could be some sort of, something on the side of the road with selling mobile phones or something. I said, no, okay, so we can't do that. We have to be specific. If I put Trinidad store for the Spain, you'll get nothing. It will come up with something completely crazy. because the model has not been trained on that. So you have to cheat now. You have to say, all right, I want it to look like X. I can't remember exactly what the prompt was that I used. But I said, let's see what it could come up with a clothing store. And I got something that was fairly workable. So, all right, well, this is getting there, but it's not going to match the person sitting now. Now, Photoshop hadn't come out yet with its generative fill thing
Right.
that just started with Firefly. What I did was I literally drew the inside of a store, put stick figure, whatever symbols for, okay, this is a pot and this is a pan and this is I'm going to put a fancy bowl here and whatever, put it on some shelves, put it into the exact same perspective that the girl is sitting down on, because we have to match the perspective, match the shadow shading a little bit, put it into the invoke and tell it, look, take this image and give me a store. And try, a couple of days. It gave me something that was fairly reasonable in the sense that it looked like something that this proprietor who was packing shelves would be using. So I put it all together and I sent it to the client. I said, well, I don't know if this looks any good, because I didn't like the end process. I thought the end didn't really look that good.
What about the end didn't you like?
It still looked okay. So the reason why you can point out what AI looks like is because it still has this kind of uncanny valley, strange. Your brain is looking at this thing and thinking, now this is not real. The items didn't look completely like a bowl wasn't finished, or it looked kind of like strange. It wasn't. You're not sure what that material is. It kind of looks like glass, but it's not. So they had this kind of thing. But the client came back and said, "But this is awesome. I love this. Could you just change this and fix this?" And I said, "Sure." So we went and I made some little minor edits in Photoshop after. And she's like, that's perfect. I love this. Whether she used it or not I don't know if she used it. But then she sent me another image with now an office. And she said, could you do the same for this office? Because we shot it in our cantina and we see people with plates and food and thing. And this is supposed to be a corporate office. Okay, no problem. And that was a little easier, not that because the model understood what a corporate office is. Everybody knows what a corporate office is. If you say corporate office in Trinidad, it's going to give you a corporate office, so you don't have to stress with that. And she's like, perfect. So I got paid. And that was the first time I actually got paid for doing AI work. And I thought, well, okay, there's something here. There's something we can do here. So same client came back with another challenge. She said, we need to do a wedding photography, and we don't have any wedding photography. Could you try something? I did. They didn't like it. The image wasn't exactly what they wanted. And they went and stock photography. They got an image and they gave it to me. And I said, okay, cool, no problem. But again, I tried something.
I think I remember seeing you posting an image. Was that same? It's a wedding image, an AI generated wedding image. Is it that same image?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I remember that one.
Yeah. So I realized that there is a way to involve AI into your workflow. I mean, I haven't touched on using ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT a lot, not just with my workflow, but I'm terrible in math. I'm a horrible math person. So when it comes down to it, like I'm doing a project right now which requires calculation of a grid. Hey, ChatGPT, I have a grid that I need to work at. What does it work with the size be? Okay, this is da. Good, I have the answer. I don't need to stress about this anymore. But what is happening is what I'm noticing is that more and more I'm relying on AI to solve a problem. I had a client come to me and tell me they want me to generate an image of Trinidadians at an Indian wedding making roti. And I told them flat out, nope. And they're like, why not? I said, because unless somebody in the Caribbean, and I've said this to Mark Lindsay and to others who have asked you to comment on these things. I said, if there is a Caribbean model that somebody generates, a model is like a 6 to 8 gigabyte file. that requires a huge amount of computing power. If you create a model using Caribbean images and classify them properly, say, well, this is the lighthouse in Port of Spain. This is RBC Bank in Port of Spain. This is a Trinidad Maxi. Then I could go in now and type in Trinidad Maxi and get what I want and generate it within a street that looks like Port of Spain because it has that reference to deal with. And this is why, not to jump to something else, but this is why the AI detractors are saying that, well, AI is stolen images. Yes, and also no. What it's doing is just taking images that are generally in the public domain and training the model to say, well, this is what a Maxi looks like. This is what a doubles vendor looks like. This is what a roti looks like. If we have that model, we'll just call it Caribbean version 1. If somebody creates that model and has it for use, then you're going to start seeing more authentic AI imagery. That you could then go and say, I want to see somebody at an Indian wedding making roti with children standing around so that they could see the progress. You can't do that right now. There's no way that you can do that right now. So that's where we are with that. But again, if you tell me, Ian, look, I need like the last one I did was I needed people walking in the Bamboo Cathedral. I have kids walking in the Bamboo Cathedral. That's not going to work for this particular project. I'm going to have to take the kids out and put people in. And whether you're using Photoshop generated fill or you're using Stable Diffusion or even using Midjourney, that's possible.
I have some questions about that.
Yeah.
I saw that image you created as for a popular bank in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
And I saw what you did. And you explained the process of how you had this image from the Bamboo Cathedral. And for those who may be listening outside of Trinidad and Tobago who may not know, it's like a semi-forested area with a path in it, and there is that tall bamboo that comes and meets in the center of this path. Very picturesque, very nice. It's very popular. You can Google it if you don't know what it is. And so they wanted a couple walking together in Bamboo Cathedral. And I saw you said, well, you had this image with the kids, and you explained that whole process. And of course, at the scale that they were doing it at, it was for printed stuff. It was fine, and they were okay with it, even though obviously I could see clearly.
Yeah, you could see what there are issues. Yeah,
you could see the issues, right? But it's good enough, right? So it's 60% there, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I had a thought when I saw that image. The thought I had was, yes, it was done for convenience, but you essentially are functioning in the role of, let's call it, a photographer, right? Because they would have had to call out a photographer to go on location, to set this shot up, gotten models. There's a series of things that would have had to happen for that to take place. So let's just forget the models for the time being. Let's just suppose you turn up there as a photographer, you take the picture. Are you then now charging as if you are paying yourself as a photographer as well as a graphic designer, or does everything get rolled into one? What is the approach when you're doing images that could be done by a human being taking pictures?
Yeah, that's a good question. You certainly cannot charge. You cannot charge. Right now, coming back to what we started with, we're talking about logos. It's the same philosophy. If I tell a client, you want a logo that's $5,000, the client is going to come back to me like if I'm off my rocker. Are you insane? You can't do that. And in fact, one of my clients came back to me and said, I had to do an update for our website. Why are you charging me $1,000 to do this when before you charge me $5,000? I'm like, because it's more work. There are more things to do. You see? Yes, but you're just sitting in front of your computer. You're not doing anything. You're not actually writing.
Do people actually say that?
No, I had a person comment and he said, but you're just sitting in front of the computer. I mean, they didn't say they could do it themselves. They would never get that far in their insanity. But what they would say is that they don't know what the value is. And I always remember at McCann, the general manager saying, well, crap, Ian, why would any client come and work for us? Because we provide value. I think to myself, yeah, okay, but at the same time, they want something specific. So if it is that they said, look, we need a bamboo cathedral with somebody walking in it, and I call up my friend Anthony Scully, I say, Scully, how much you would charge for us to go up to the bamboo cathedral, shoot two models? Like, he would come back and tell me $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, whatever it is. I don't know what Anthony would charge. Um, and the client would go, "Are you insane? My budget is whatever it is I'm paying you to do this layout for the press ad." And I say, "Yeah, but I mean," they're like, "No, we can't do that. So come up." And that's when they go to stock. They say, "Well, can't we find it in stock?" So even if we go to AI, we already still have stock. So, well, yeah, but you're not going to find Bamboo Cathedral in stock. And that leads to a whole other question is because I had another client of mine, a friend of mine who's also a client, and he said, Ian, why don't we have local stock photography? Why can't I go on and go to a library and just not pay for an image? I said, because photographers are not going to make any money doing that. So
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
we tried that already. Multiple
yeah,
people have
it's
tried
not
that.
going to work. So it comes back to, okay, if I go and I tell the client, okay, to do this AI image, it took me 2 days, 3 days to do based on processing power. You see, because I have to wait for the computer to do the processing. What I'm doing is I'm charging you for electricity and I'm charging you for equipment. I'm not charging you on location. I'm not charging you on talent. I'm not charging you on because I can't. I can't buy good. I can't do those things. I'm not charging you on photographic expertise, if you want to call it that. But you are charging for my time to be able to prompt this thing properly, to use the software properly, to do the job. So just like you would come to me and say, Ian, I need you to do me a logo, I need you to do me a press ad, whatever, I will give you a cost for doing that based on my expertise, the amount of time it will take me to do, and what is the components required. So AI is just falling into that line item of what the graphic designer is going to do to put it into the layout. So I could have gone to stock images if there was a picture of somebody walking in Bamboo Cathedral. I would have told them that's 300 TT, 400 TT, whatever it is I charge to do to pay for stock imagery. And they would say, okay, cool. I would say, all right, well, I can't find it in stock. I did an AI image. Give me 1,000 for it because I'm doing whatever it is to generate it. It costs electricity, it has equipment, whatever it is. So you can't compare the two. You're following. You can't say, well, if I got Anthony Scully or Mark Lindis or somebody to go and shoot Bamboo Cathedral, I can't charge the same amount by rights, by right to the client to do an AI image. But I should, because the technology is very new. It's cutting edge. It requires a lot of trial and error to get it right as much as you can. But I mean, the AI, as you can see, you said 60% there. The photographer would have got it to 70, 80%, and then I still have to take it, color corrected, clean it up, take off blemishes or whatever it is, fix the fold in the woman. One of the comments was, please remove the front of the woman, put the woman's top back on. I have to do those things, even if it was photography, still have to do Photoshop work. So there are a lot of things to consider when charging clients. I don't think it's right for me or anybody's should be charging a $10,000 to do an AI image. It just the math, not math in that case. But at the same time, you don't want to be doing it for free. So
Yeah.
you always come back to the client's budget. What is your budget? All I have is $3,000. All right, this is what you could get for $3,000. I'm not giving you no AI image for $3,000. You can't get no Bamboo Cathedral image for $3,000. Let's put it that way. Come up with something else. Let's think of something else because that's not within your budget. And that's why I always tell clients, don't come to me and say, you want me to do it. And then turn around when I do the costing and say, well, that's not in my budget. That's basically what I'm saying. That it would be nice to make millions of dollars from AI, but as the end user of AI, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Right.
That's the reality of the situation. And then I could talk about that a little bit, but the
Well,
people,
okay. Well, I
okay,
have a question. I have a
yeah,
question
yeah,
though,
yeah,
because I don't want the spot to get away from us.
yeah,
So we spoke about the money part of it, which you covered, and you talked about how it might work, right? We
yeah,
spoke about the money part of it.
yeah,
Um, but another thing comes up. Another was it word? Another issue turns up, which is what about the expertise part of it? So in the image that you generated for this client of the couple walking in the Bamboo Cathedral,
mm,
so like you were talking about whether you had to hire a photographer, you hire Anthony Scully or whoever else you decide to hire. You are hiring him for his expertise, his
that's right.
equipment, his expertise, his time, his whatever, whatever. Um, but you as a graphic designer has to know what looks good.
Yeah,
You have to
absolutely.
know what works, what looks good, because the image that you're putting the models into,
Yeah,
this AI generated image into, has a particular set of lighting.
yeah,
It has a feel to it,
yeah,
and I said that there were shadows on the ground. I'm sure you put those shadows in, and all those, the AI generated all that. So that's what I'm saying. So you have to know that it's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to come to a point where it looks um, a very specific way.
yeah,
And so what about that expertise part of it? The part of it where people are paying for that as well, not just the generation of the image, because it does work in itself,
mm,
but then about the expertise part, like a graphic designer who is not experienced enough to know this is what I have to tell the AI in order to generate this specific type of
yeah,
image lit this way from this
absolutely.
angle for it to look good.
Absolutely. And that comes back to the point that I made in the introduction. You can't, the AI is never going to replace. People say, oh, AI is going to replace. Well, okay, I wouldn't say never. I never say never because I never thought we'd be where we are now. But as it stands, you still need three components to do this AI thing. And let me just say, I have seen big agencies, I'm not going to mention the agency, but I've seen a big agency do some work for a communications brand for Carnival. And I don't know if it is because they were under the gun and they needed to do something very quickly, but they went and they generated some visuals there in Midjourney, and obviously all the hands are screwed up. And it just takes a little bit of time to just take your initial image. Okay, that looks good. This guy's smiling. She's smiling too. We have a nice crowd. We have nice lighting. Everything looks good. All right. Oh my God, look at the hands. Oh God, what are we gonna do? All right. Take it into in paint. And in the case of stable diffusion, take it into in paint. And you kind of have to guide the process a little bit. You actually have to draw the hands in a little bit. You have to have some artistic skill, draw the hands in a little bit, and tell the AI, okay, that's a hand. Because it still doesn't really know what a hand is. It's getting there. It's okay. There's a hand holding a bottle. It has four fingers here and a thumb poking out here. Okay, I could take the four fingers. Let me just add the thumb in Photoshop. Good. But they didn't. They just threw this AI image out there. I don't know why. They did a whole bunch of them. I know. And one person's face was totally distorted. He looks like he was in one of these horror movies. But
Mhm.
yeah, the point is you have to be able to look at this image from the point of view of an artist and say, look, I have worked with photographers. I understand the photography. I've worked with models. I've worked with people. That is not somebody's teeth. That is not how teeth is supposed to look. So how am I going to fix that? Right? In the case of the Bamboo Cathedral thing, I I was going to take it to the step further and fix all the coloring and all that. The car was like, no, 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 no. We need it right now. It looks fine for what it is. Go ahead. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't have a issue with it to the point about that it didn't look presentable. But it could have gone to the next step. It could have been that I could have sat down there in Photoshop and really went through it and blended things more and whatever. I could have done all that. But again, client wasn't paying for that time. They're not going to pay me to do that. In the sense of if they're
Yeah.
happy with it at this stage and everybody's happy with this. I mean, that communication client could have been happy with everybody's fingers looking like they were tentacles. I don't know. So the expertise part of it right now we are in the same, okay, so way back in 1787 or 18, whenever photography, daguerreotype or whatever it is, when photography started, nobody understood photography. You had five
Mhm.
people who knew what to do. That's where we are now with AI. We have a five people who know exactly what the AI is going to produce if you tell it. If I say, I would like I would like a guy swimming in the ocean with a shark chasing him and he's happy. But I need to consider what model would be able to give me a good looking shark and a person. I may have to do the shark separately. I have to know what settings to put, what they call the CFC, the clip setting. I need to know what the other settings are within this thing to get the level of detail that I'm looking for. This isn't a fire and forget situation. This isn't like I Joe Blow. Oh, here's a thing. There's a website called Lexia.com. You could go in Lexia, pay a little 10 US and get a whole set of credits, and you could create all kind of images. Yeah, okay, those are images that you like. But as for commercial reasons, what other people would like, what other people will be seeing, what sells the brand, whatever it is, you might have to take that a little further. You might have to go a little further with it. Yeah.
Mm. Let's talk about. She mentioned something here. So far we talked about the money, how much it costs. We talked about the expertise, and let's talk about the. I realize that we're forming a trifecta. I didn't expect this to happen, but we're forming a
Yeah.
trifecta of what it takes to like use AI. That is not the actual skill, right?
Yeah.
That's not the actual prompting or the design or whatever. Because we kind of touching on the business of how you do this, right? So the last part of it that I think is important, and you said it just now, which is the time it actually takes to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's not as if you describe a scenario just now where maybe they could have done better if they had the time and they had refined it over, or maybe they would have put through it into Photoshop where somebody was an expert, because there are many
Yeah. Yeah.
Photoshop experts.
Yes.
And you also describe in your case where you were generating this image for this client, that they said it's good enough, we need it now, type
Yeah.
of thing, which is as always the case,
Yeah.
as always is from the beginning of time with graphic
Yeah.
design and any artistic pursuit. The clients always want it now, right?
Yeah.
So then how do you account now and how do you charge? Because people may have this concept in their heads where, oh, AI is just generated, it's instant type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
How do you now account for that and tell people, well, hey, this thing takes time and it's not just like I'm just saying one thing and it gets it done. How do
Yeah.
you account for that for your business?
Well, it comes back to being a graphic artist and educating people on what a graphic artist profession is, what a graphic designer is, what is the role of an ad agency, for example. You know, you would go that far. The first thing out in your mind, okay, so your medium-sized business, small business. Well, I'll exclude small business really because you're not really you're going to be doing things on your own anyway because you're not going to have that kind of funds. But medium large business, you can't come and tell me as somebody had told me they want to do Google ads by themselves. I said, all right, good luck. Never happened because you just don't have the time. As a medium owner, business owner, you're dealing with stock, you're dealing with employee problems, you're dealing with all kind of things. You have a lot of things on your plate. You don't have time to sit down and figure out how am I going to do this special ad that I need to do for social media. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Let me just go in Canva and do something. Okay, but what is that saying? You see, it's really saying that you don't have much respect for your own brand because this is how other people perceive you. You don't have much respect for your brand if it is that you're just throwing something together at the last minute. So you pay people like me to do it. But at the same time, the thing is that you can't just go. So the best example is, can anybody tell me, throw it out to the community, can anybody tell me that they could build a table by themselves from scratch? Get wood, cut it, put it together, and sand it and paint it, right? I don't think a lot of people could probably make an approximation of a table. If they get the wood, they could probably cut it into The table might be a little wonky, but they get a table,
Well, the
right?
problem is what they're cutting it with.
No, but the point I'm making is I'm not saying you can't get a table, but what kind of table would you get? You will obviously
Right.
get a table that you would be like, this is functional. This is okay to put in the back here. We are doing painting or whatever, and it could take licking and mash up and whatever. But I'm not going to put it in the living room. Unless you put it in the living room to say, well, this is art. There it is. You see my art, my sculpture, it's a table, whatever. It's the same thing with AI. You're going in the AI and you're going and tell it, hey, show me a woman smiling, holding a mobile phone because my brand is talking about extra minutes for the weekend or blah, 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 blah. Dying, I just going and take phone, woman, happy, whatever it is you described it as, and ignore the rest. And you're going to get something that you didn't think that you're going to get. And you're going to be like, but this AI thing not giving me what I want. And you keep going because technically it's free, if you want to call it. And you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going. Added to that, when you start Googling things and you start searching things of, well, I want to see a Trinidadian eating a snow cone, you're going to get a really bad looking AI image that somebody put up on their website that doesn't look really nice, but hey, communicating the story to me. It is a table. It's doing what it needs to do. Here it is this kind of strange looking image of a person with some sort of ice looking thing. The thing is, if you want to get it to where it needs to be, you're going to have to do the work. So the AI is kind of like the start, maybe reach in the middle, but you need to get to the next, well, good description, the next 40%. You need to go and sit down now and really work at it. So the point is, there are people who say, you don't charge by the hour. I call BS on that because you have to know how much time you're going to spend on this. If the computer is going to be crunching this thing for 3 hours, that's 3 hours that you can actually use your computer, for example. Or I bought a machine just to do this. It cost me $20,000. I have to make back on this investment. I have to charge a client $4,000 or $5,000 per image or whatever to make back whatever it is, the equipment. So these are the things that we need to think about when we're talking about, well, we could just do it in AI. Well, you could, but it requires some level of thought and some level of commitment to get it right. Now, the whole other side of the equation is we've had people saying, yeah, well, AI will never make it look as good as I would. Dude, don't kid yourself. Within the space of 3 months, we went from, and we use this example a lot in the industry. We went from, if you search up Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Yeah, spaghetti. Yeah, I know that example.
To what we have now. What's the name of this thing now? I've forgotten the name.
Sora.
Sora.
Yeah.
Sora is still not open source. It's not open to everybody yet. But when it gets there, what are you gonna do? Well, you have videographer. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? when a client could just say, well, let me go inside here and just put in, I want X, Y, Z, or whatever. Yeah, you could, but in the case of a local context, if you're trying to be localized, you're going to hit a wall. So I throw this out to the community of all the AI people. Make a model. I can't do it. I don't have the processing power. Make a model. Let's make a model for the Caribbean. Let's make a model for Trinidad. Let's do something that we can then say this is so clients can then go and pay for it. Now, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that you may be making a pittance from AI, but the real people who are making money from AI is NVIDIA.
Right, yes.
Is mid-June, well, not even mid-June, because they're all basing the hardware to provide these magical images. That's Amazon, AWS, that's the server, the rack space, the cloud services, the NVIDIA processing. All of those things are where the money's at. That's where the money's at. whoever hold those things, they are going to make the money. Everything else is, you could call it open source, you could call it freemium, you could call it whatever. At the end of the day, you make a little $5, they're making 5 million in one day. Because at some point in time, there's going to be a point where you will need the greatest processing power, most processing power, and you can't do that in your home. You gotta go and do that on somebody else's system somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's an interesting. I heard about that, and like Nvidia is making Nvidia went from graphics cards to a crypto powered to they went through a few iterations. And basically, it's the same cards. They're just upgrading them and calling them different things. So Nvidia is really making a killing. But I wanna. There's so much things we could talk about, and there's lots of stuff you're generating a lot of thoughts in my head. No pun intended. To ask new questions. But let me ask one more thing before we close off, because we come approaching an hour. So let me ask one last thing before we close off.
Yeah.
Do you think that the public, the general public, perceives any company in a bad light when they recognize that they're using AI generated images as opposed to real people? Do you think that's something that happens in the mind of the public, or they don't care?
Well, you have to ask the public. You'll have to ask them, do you like this image over this image? And just get a feel. Again, there are two schools of thought. The graphic artists say, graphic designers in the community say, but this looks like crap. Why would anybody like this? But the post has like 500 shares or whatever. So it's how you measure the metric. Is the metric the success of it by how many people commented positively on a piece of content that was put out generated by AI? Yeah, okay, then it worked. So if, for example, the big communications company with the twisted tentacle-looking hands and the two warped faces, nobody seemed to care because it's just another piece of content that this particular company is putting out. But if you were to launch a product, it's new. You're not in the space before, and you launch a new product and you use AI exclusively. I think a lot of people would think, well, this is not feeling genuine. You smell the BS from the distance. You say, I'm not too sure whether I really think that this is, you're not using real things, so I'm not feeling that you're really real. Which is why when you have all these tons of 100 people saying, oh, well, you could automatically generate content for your Instagram post or whatever, that's not real stuff. People, the other flip side of it is, all these Instagram influencers who are AI, doing the butt pose in their bikinis, getting 10,000 likes because they like, those people like those kind of things. They don't care whether it's real or not. But you see, when it comes to something like milk or food or something where it is genuine, you tell me there's a generated roti image, so you could not just go and make a roti and take a photo. What? You're not real. So there are definitely different parts in the spectrum. I don't want to call it range. I want to call it a spectrum where it can fall. If you're trying to be genuine, AI in the beginning or AI may not be where you need to be. But at the same time, if you're a small business and you're selling clothes and you could generate a model with something that looks like your clothes on it that look fairly good, I don't see the problem. I don't think anybody would see the problem.
Right. Ian, this has been a really great conversation, a very interesting, and it went into places I didn't expect it to go. I don't know, maybe there'll be another time when we talk more specifically about some of the other thoughts I've been having. But today, I think we have to bring it to an end there. But before we go, could you please tell the people where they can find you online and maybe interested in having some AI generated images by Reid Designs? Where can they find you online?
Well, my website is reiddesigns.pro, but that's reiddesigns.pro, but it's not, I've been updated. I've been very slack. You could find, I do most of my stuff on Instagram. So reiddesigns.pro on Instagram. I also have all of my AI related things. I kind of silo it into AI related. I have a little, what I call journey, a journal of AI, the journey of AI from the beginning when I started right up to now. It's called The Ironic Mnemonic. So I don't know if I could send you that as a spelling, but it's on my Redesigns at PRO page on Instagram. I always talk about the ironic mnemonic, so you could always find it, a link from there. But that's I know also on LinkedIn, Ian Reid Designs.
Nice. So we'll take those things, we'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Ian, for being here with us today, and thank you, students, for joining us on the Useful Content Podcast, Useful Content Classroom. Dismissed. And we're clear. We are clear. See how easy that was? Very, very painless. You could have talked for 2-3 hours.
Yeah, I know. It's just time. I have time today.
Holidays, in an arrival day. I know you have your roti loaded up somewhere, so.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't buy any roti. Oh, well.
You didn't buy any roti?
Nah.
Oh, well. It's
Okay.
the same.
It's okay.
Get AI generate some.
Yeah, maybe. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
The Useful Content Podcast is brought to you and produced by Relate Studios. You can see the work we do on our website at relatestudios.com. If you like what you've heard on the podcast today, please follow and come back in 2 weeks for another great episode. And if you want to get more useful content in between that, you can follow me, Juma Bannister, on LinkedIn and on Twitter. We all know it's still Twitter. See you soon in the Useful Content Classroom.